Welcome, Monica. Thank you for being here. And I'll just read a little bit of Monica's bio. Certified clinical musician Monica Schley has a BA from University of Wisconsin EAU Clare,
Eau Claire,
Eau Claire, Wisconsin Eau Claire. She
French.
has she has formerly studied pedal harp, lever harp, piano, clarinet, pipe organ, voice, composition, and poetry. As a teacher, she is an affiliate with Dusty Strings Music School and also maintains a private studio. As a performer, Monica has played with community orchestras, indie rockers, jazz luminaries, and pop stars. Her performance history is a blend of yin and yang, ranging from the intimate sublime to large-scale performance halls around the country. She composes for her group, the Daphnes, which released an album, Braids of Kabuya, Braids of Kabuya, in
Kabuki.
Kabuya in 2018. Monica's teaching method draws from folk, classical, songwriting, theory, ensemble work, improvisation, and pop music using Salcedo-influenced method. Did I pronounce that correctly,
Yes.
Salcedo?
Carlos
Uh,
Salcedo is a
yes,
well-known harpist.
yes, okay. She thinks that everyone's learning process is a little bit unique, just like the harp. Some of her writing can be found at www.pyrograph.com. Harp Therapy Journal, Raven Chronicles, Cream City Review, and King County Metro's Poetry on Buses. She lives in Seattle with her husband, artist illustrator Stephen Schlidbach.
Hilltop.
Schlidbach, okay, and their two young children. You can find more of her writing at Harp Escapes Videos on her website at monicaschley.com. Welcome, Monica.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I have to thank you so much for helping me get in the meeting this morning, Margarita.
Oh, yeah, no
I
worries.
really appreciate that. And
Yeah.
thanks to Mariah for inviting me to come. Yeah, this kind of prompted me to give myself an assignment for my blog, which I try to write something once a month. And so I wrote something called How to Make Practicing Music a Healing Process. So that was kind of in response to your request. I think, how can we as teachers help our students during this time find deeper meaning to what we're all trying to do here? So as a therapeutic musician, so I have a certification to play therapeutic bedside music, which if there's any music therapists here, you know, and as well as me, those are two different things. A music therapist has an advanced degree and they do work with music rehabilitatively, one-on-one, asking somebody to touch the instrument and play and do a specific thing. Whereas therapeutic bedside music is passive. And so what you're doing is you're just observing people and responding with music in a way that will help them. And I feel like as a teacher, as a music teacher, that has been really helpful to me on how I can respond to what my students' needs are at the time and find out what is working and what is not working. So I've got 5 little talking points here, and I'm just kind of going to jump in here. I don't do these sorts of things very often, so it's going to be sort of helpful for me to take some of my own advice here as I dip in. So the first suggestion that I have, which by the way, I'm just actually going off of my notes from my blog. So if there's anything that anybody wants to read, if you go to my website, which is just my name, monicaschley.com, in the blog section, you will find what I'm going to be covering notes on how to make practicing music a healing process. So there are 5 points that I'm going to make today. And first one is just letting go and trying to practice without the fear of having mistakes and not being paralyzed before you even start, you know. I enjoy watching my students play through a piece for its entirety for the first time, and seeing, kind of just observing, like, what is the tricky part, what is the easy part for them, and watching the flow of their body. We at the harp have to be out just a little bit, so you can have tension in your shoulders, and so I observe like where people have physical tension. And then I have to tell this story. Recently I was teaching a student who, she seemed like really super stiff as she was playing, like almost like she was kind of like very, very, very tenuous about what she was working on, and this was not a new song. And so after she was finished playing for me, I said, "Were you holding your breath at all?" And she said yes, like her face was scrunched up in concentration, and her fingers were so much tighter. And as soon as I asked her that, she was like a little light bulb went off, and she didn't even know that she was doing it, and she said, "Oh, I should have known better because I've been practicing yoga for years, and this is a major part of that practice." And so sometimes it's just an observation that we as teachers can point out as simple and as obvious as, don't hold your breath while you are practicing. We can help people work through being in the present moment with what we're concentrating on. And it doesn't have to be a very complex nature, but just the letting go of your breath. So that is my first point. I guess I'll just kind of move on from that one. So the letting go. And then the second point, or the second suggestion on how to make music a healing process is, it kind of interrelates, is to conscious breathing. And I happen to really enjoy the philosophy, and I'm not really a particularly religious person, but I've always gravitated toward certain elements of Zen Buddhism. And I really like this book by Thich Nhat Hanh called Peace is Every Step. And in this book, he has an exercise, a breath exercise that I've found really helpful for myself when I'm practicing, and just being present when I'm playing out. And so I like to suggest this to my students too. And his exercise, you say to yourself as you breathe in, and I actually had to do this a little bit before we came on, because I was a little nervous today just coming to talk to you all. And so just breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. And if you do that before you sit down at your instrument, I think it grounds you. I think it brings you into the thing that you are going to focus on, whether or not it's playing your instrument, or, for me, changing strings, or getting ready for teaching a lesson, or whatever have you. Just taking that 5 seconds, the cycle of breath, to just really ground you. So being conscious and connecting the mind-body awareness, that is really been very, very helpful for me in passing that on to myself, my students, my children. And how can we change that too? It doesn't have to be those words. You can make it be meaningful for you. You can say, let's see, breathing in, I am aware at my instrument. Breathing out, I am here. Or, it could be related to whatever song you're working on. You could say something like inward presence, outward presence. Thich Nhat Hanh says, breathing in, I smile. Breathing out, I find peace. And even just checking that within your mind as you're practicing, just like asking yourself, am I breathing? Am I holding intention? Going back to the first one, am I holding intention? Am I breathing? Am I here? Am I right, like here at my instrument playing, or is my mind elsewhere? Because one thing that's really interesting about playing music that is always just phenomenally marvelous, but challenging, I think, is as we read music, especially the complexities of it, you are in the moment of playing that measure and those particular notes, but you are also looking ahead a couple beats, maybe a whole bar, maybe 4 beats, you're looking ahead. And as a harpist, I have to do that with pedals and lever changes. So I have to really look ahead, but how can you also be present? Like it's a very strange dichotomy, and I think it's an amazing challenge. And that's one of the cool things about music, is that even the masters are forever still challenged by music. And I think that's just what's so mystical and beautiful about music, is you're always learning and growing. So that's one of my favorite challenges, I think, is how do I look ahead to the future measure, but also still be in this present moment of this present time, this present beat. I know these are minuscule things, right? 2, 3 beats are small compared to a large expanse of time, but that's what we're doing. We're musicians and we're music teachers, and that's what we need to be focusing and proficient at, and being able to share that with our students. So I will just say, if you want to create a personal mantra, to just kind of practice that as you sit down at your instrument, that might be kind of a fun little challenge. And hopefully connect you to a present moment and the conscious breathing, which will help energy flow through us, and I think help us be more present and grounded. So I'm going to move on to the third point now, which is intention. And intention for me sort of came about at the therapeutic music bedside. I feel like a lot of these things are interwoven in my life. I became a music teacher probably about 7 years ago. So not really I've been a lifelong musician. I started piano when I was 4. So that, to me, I still feel like I'm a very, very new music teacher, and I have so much to learn, and there's so much I don't know. And I'm constantly trying to figure out how can I be a better music teacher. And at the same time that I was becoming a music teacher, I was studying and getting my certification to do therapeutic bedside music. So for me, they're sort of interwoven learning things. And as a certified clinical musician, it was a 2-level process that I took the course with Lori Riley. Lori Riley is a harpist who started a course called, I think now it's called Harp for Healing. Now it changed its names. But we had to take essentially what is like the Hippocratic Oath, which is like what nurses and doctors have to take. We had to, make some sort of vowed promise similar to that, which is basically a law of doing no harm. And it's also, it's take no blame, but it's also not taking any credit, right? So if I am playing for somebody and they had been in a coma and I'm playing for them and suddenly they wake up, like, I'm not taking credit for that. It just happened to be so. Similarly, if I'm playing for somebody and they go into cardiac arrest, I'm not going to blame myself, but I am going to respond to the situation and stop what's happening. So intention can take a place in that situation by, when I walk into a place, say, I am going to do my very best to respond to what this person might need to hear today, what they might be best responding to. And I see this as very closely linked to what my music students need right now. I've been teaching on Zoom for a whole year, just like the rest of you. And how can my students range from, I do not teach anybody who's younger than 7. And I have a 70-year-old student. So I would say my youngest student currently is like 8 or 9, something like that. And I try to see who they are today on that day, because we're not static. We change with our moods, what we need to hear and what we're going through. So one day I was teaching my student who happens to be 70, and her daughter was having a major heart surgery at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. And she herself lives on Orcas, and she couldn't be there. And she was like really clearly distraught. And I said, "Are you sure you want to be in a harp lesson right now?" And she said, "Well, I want this to take my mind off of things." And I said, "Well, why don't we set an intention for this practice is for your daughter. We are going to do the best that we can making beautiful music right now. And that's going to be for her self-care." And she worked through the surgery. I found out, my student called me later and said, "Oh, she's great. She's just fine." And of course, we didn't take credit for the fact that her daughter came out of heart surgery, but it was therapeutic and healing for my student to know that she, as a mother, could somehow participate in something for her child when she couldn't physically be there, by creating an intention. This is just one situation, I'm sure, this vast pool of piano teachers that I'm speaking with, you could probably come up with a scenario in your head where you have a student who has been going through a difficult time and something challenging has come up. And sometimes it's like a little dedication, this practice is for this person today. I'm thinking of this person. Maybe it's yourself. Maybe it's yourself you're thinking about. Because I think everybody's just going through such a tough time. And I'm going to get to that later with one other point. So yeah, that kind of wraps up what I have to say about the power of intention. But again, taking no claim and taking no blame, but just setting an intention can sometimes be really healing and helpful for a person. So the next one is enter the zone. And personally, I think this is kind of one of my favorite things. It's kind of like, jazz musicians and jam bands and Celtic circles. It's like when you just, I think we're all so hungry and just like waiting to play music together so badly. One of my favorite things I love to do with my students, I cannot do right now. And it just, it makes my heart sink just a little bit, but I love to practice. And maybe you guys do this too with your, like say you play the left hand and I'll play the right hand and vice versa. And you swip swap and just somebody lays down the rhythm and another person gets to improvise. And that's how we can enter the zone, but it's hard to get to that zone over Zoom. There is no Zoom zone. This is as good as we go sometimes with, I know there's like plugins or something with latency. And I feel like I'm just not quite so savvy with figuring all of those things out. So I'm holding out until I can still do those things in person. But the zone has to do with what our brain waves are at. So we've got 5 different brain waves, and I'm not a neurologist, so I hope I don't make a mistake here, but I do have like a little chart on this blog entry on my website. So if you go to the blog, How to Make Music a Healing Process, you will see this human brain wave chart. And so delta is the lowest, that's when we're sleeping. And then theta is just slightly above that when we're just kind of waking up. And next is alpha, when we're alert and active, walking, putzing around the house, something like that. And then delta is when we are learning. And there's, from my understanding, there's, lower delta and higher delta. So like lower delta waves might be doing something like this, whereas a higher delta wave might be really digging into practicing mode, and just learning, analytical thinking, and being very focused and comprehension. And then gamma waves, those are the highest brain waves. And so that is, I think, when we can get into like the jamming state, and you can enter that zone, the free improv, the improvisational mode, and the mode when we're connecting with other players. So, you're in a symphony and you become one, the music of oneness. So that's the highest brain wave. And I think when we get into that, there's a poem that I love by the Sufi mystic Rumi, where he said, knowing that conscious decisions and personal memory are much too small a place to live in, human beings stream at night into the loving nowhere, or during the day into some absorptive work. I know that's kind of a mouthful. That's a lot to take on, but I think that is nature's original streaming, right? So we're streaming together into the loving nowhere when we're able to jam together. Or you can be doing it by yourself. You lose yourself in practice. You are totally unconscionable about time. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 55 minutes. You have no idea. You've lost yourself in practicing. And I think getting into that zone is just so healing and so magnificent. And to be able to help my students kind of get to that place, I have a little thing that I show them. I'll just show you. It's sort of pentatonic related. And I actually did this with my daughter, who's learning piano, the other day, where we were just playing the black keys, but on harp, it's the white strings. And so I'll say, like, just create a drone, which I'm a little out of tune, but not too bad. Maybe that was this one. So we'll create a drone with our left hand. And then I'll say you can play whatever you want on your right. Just on the white strings. And this could go on, and you can do all kinds of different variations, and you can make it be more rhythmic. You can switch where you do the rhythm. If your rhythm's in your right hand, you can make it be in the left hand. You can do all these sorts of games and totally lose yourself in this activity. It reminds me of wind chimes. Yeah. So that to me is like one of my favorite things, to help students find that place where you lose yourself in the music. And it just is this healing. The wind chimes, it just, the sound washes over you. Let your instrument take you to another place. Let your instrument take you away from your troubles. And everybody's got that right now. Certainly now that it's nice outside, it's a little bit better and we're starting to feel hopeful. But this winter was really dark for a lot of my, especially my teenage students. And I'll get on into that in just a bit. But I think one of the things I wanted to just mention about the zone is just that, you know, we're not so alone, I think, when we're playing with other people, and we can, once we're able to do that again and do group settings. I heard you talking about recitals, and I'm just like, oh gosh, I miss recitals, you know, all these little things where we can share these experiences together. But do be kind to yourself. And I tell my students that a lot, to just be kind to yourself. Just don't give yourself the negative dialogue. Just don't. Just baby steps. This is a journey, right? So I think going back to setting the intention, then being kind to yourself, and then just go for something so simple as playing the white strings or the black strings. Maybe that's all you can do today. So next, practicing feel-good music. So for a couple of my students, I want to bring up, by comparison, two different students that I have that are the same age. They're about 15 years old. And I have been teaching both of them about the same amount of time, maybe about 5 years or so. And feel-good music is whatever makes you feel good at that time. So maybe it doesn't have to be like, you know, a big get up and jump around and say, yeah, anthem-y piece. It's not a major, it doesn't have to be major key. It doesn't have to be super positive. I mean, I have this student, I'm going to give her as an example. I did this arrangement of Poor Wayfaring Stranger. I don't know if anybody knows that tune. It's an American folk tune. I'll just play a little bit if you don't know what I'm talking about, but it's a minor key piece and it's pretty mopey. It's a death tune too. Poor wayfaring stranger, while I'm traveling through this world of woe, yet there's no sickness, toil, nor danger that this bright world to which I go. I'm going there to see my Father. So we're talking about going up in heaven. This is a tune that was written after the Civil War. I'm going there no more to roam. It's just like an everyman song, right? The journey of every man just toiling through the world of troubles. Oh, so I played this for my 15-year-old student, and I'm telling you, this girl, this is like her favorite song in the world right now. And just resonated with her. It just hit her to the core. Oh, I'm seeing, yes, there is an African American heritage from this tune. I'm seeing like a lot of messages pop up here from, yeah, it's definitely a sad song for sure. And so it was just like from death. But also I think like that is what is how people were feeling during this time when this winter, like this winter was super dark. It was very, very challenging. And so this girl was resonating, and this was her feel good music. It is, you know, it was super depressing for somebody else, but for her, it was her feel good tune. And it's like still her go-to tune 4 months later. Like she still wants to play it for me. Then another girl, same age, her feel good tune, she gives me Isn't She Lovely by Stevie Wonder. I don't know, you may know this one. So anyway, I won't keep playing all this music for you, but she is on a different channel. She was like, I don't want to have any sad songs. That is not making me feel good. Those sad songs are going to kill me. I'm already dying in virtual school and all the homework and blah, blah, blah. So don't give me that. So she's working on this and then some other classical pieces. But those were her feel good tunes, and then the other girl had the sad tunes. So I switched that up for people too, because maybe like I don't know how often you give your students new music, but I kind of everybody gets something new like every 4 to 6 weeks. I'll play tunes for them and they can kind of pick what they want to work on. So I'll play, I don't know, maybe like 5 songs, and then they can choose what they resonate with at that time, because we're not static people. So what you're going through changes as well. So I think that kind of covers everything that I had to say mostly. And I'm curious what the feedback is. This is so interesting because it's different than talking to a group of people in real time, sitting next to me in a room or something. But just in brevity, the 5 things that I talked about. Oh, and actually, before I say that, I also wanted to recommend this other book. Do you know this book? Effortless Mastery by Kenny Werner is a super positive, beautiful, beautiful book with just like little nuggets about how to be a better composer. Yeah, Eric, you know it. How to be a better musician, how to be a better composer, but also like just again being really super positive and gentle with yourself, and just realizing that this is a journey that we're on, and this is a pretty tough part of our journey. Effortless Mastery by Kenny Werner. Kenny Werner. There we go. I think I got this at the Seattle Public Library book sale when they had it when they used to do those. I don't know if they do those anymore, if they'll ever do them again, I don't know. And then the other book that I recommended earlier was Pieces Every Step by Thich Nhat Hanh. So, and just a review, letting go. And if you want, I can write these, Margarita, the Pieces Every Step book, that's by Thich Nhat Hanh. His name is hard to spell, so I'll just put that right there. But I can also, I think both of these, maybe not the Kenny Werner, but definitely the Thich Nhat Hanh is referenced in the blog. So, oh, thank you, you spelled it. Okay, so just a little wrap up, just letting go of your breath, not holding tension when you practice, which relates to conscious breathing, just being present. You could even create a little mantra for yourself. Set an intention, certainly not required all the time, but you'll know it if you need it. Number 4, entering the zone. And I find it's really super fun for students if they're feeling stuck too. I forgot to mention that if you're feeling stuck, just doing sort of something improvisational is also really good. So, and then the last one is to practice your feel-good music. All of those, I think, help for making, practicing a healing process. So thanks so much for letting me talk, and I'm really happy to open this up for any questions you all have.
Great. Thanks so much, Monica. Are there any questions in the chat here? That would be a good place for people to put them.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot in the chat. I'm just looking at it now. I don't see any questions. Oh, I think Margarita was wondering about the score to the first piece that you played.
Oh,
Wayfaring Stranger.
The Wayfaring Stranger. I actually just wrote it out as a lead sheet, but if anybody wants to message me, I'm happy to just send it to you. I found it in an old book. I found it in an old hymnal. And so I just put it into a lead sheet form, which I'm happy to send. So I could send it to Mariah and she could disperse it if you want to do it that way. Or
Great.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. And then anybody who wants it can just email Mariah.
Mhm.
Is that okay, Mariah?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Cool. It's a good reminder to just kind of, practicing just is not that serious. It's not about perfection or, letting go is good. And
I had a poetry professor in college who would say, please do not sit down and, write. As a writer, you write every day. In your journal, you write every day. As a musician, you practice every day. Please do not sit down at your craft and say, I am going to commit poetry today. Like, it's like this act. It's like, it could be suicide if you act that way. Don't give yourself an assignment always. You can give yourself an assignment, but if it's just your practice, just sometimes showing up. And I do tell my students that it's very simple. Sometimes just showing up is good enough.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah, that could be part of the intention.
I had a question, Monica. So obviously you've been playing harp a very long time, and I just wondered when you made the shift toward this part of your journey in terms of healing music. You know what I mean? Like, was there some event that happened that drew you to that, or have you just always been drawn to that? Or
no, I was not drawn to that always. I spent a good portion of my learning not being interested in that, even though people would tell me, oh, you played the harp, you could like play for people in the hospital or something. And I was like, no, why would I? But I became a mom 10 years ago. My daughter's 10. And one thing I wanted to do is give a natural birth, which sounds really painful. And it was, but I've always had a really low threshold for pain. And so I wanted to, I wanted to challenge myself. And so I took a hypnotherapy course, which is not for everybody, and it totally doesn't work for everybody, but it did for me. And basically I practiced this meditation every night before I went to bed, and it had music, and it was so very closely linked to music. And, my husband was like, what is going on with you? Because I was like only listening to new age music for like 9 months. He was like, oh my God, what are you what is going on with you? but that really changed me physiologically in a sense where I was able to physically do the thing that I wanted to do. And I actually was able to give not one, but two natural births to both of my children. My son is 3 and my daughter is 10. And that's a miracle, because as anybody who's a mom knows, that's really hard. I mean, and modern medicine doesn't really want you to go that route. Sometimes they want you to take all the drugs, and sometimes that's totally fine if that's what you want. But for me, that is what sort of was the catalyst, is just realizing that music played such a huge part in my physically being able to relax and be in control more in between my brain and my body. And I'd never experienced anything like that before.
Wow. And so you just naturally got more curious about it and started reading,
Yeah, well, then
exploring
it
it
was
more?
also, then it was, I won't also ignore the fact that, at the time I was playing with a lot of groups that we were like, say, anybody who performs as a musician, people go out at 10 at night, you don't get home till 1 a.m. or whatever. And I had a small daughter. I couldn't be like lugging my harp out at 12:30 in the morning anymore. That was just not, I wasn't interested in it. And I needed to make a transition. And so I also found out I had taught my harpist friend, some of you might know, Leslie McMichael, who lives on Vashon Island. She teaches Suzuki method. She taught for her students something called Vashon Island Harp Camp. And so she invited me to be a guest. And the other harp guest teacher was Lori Riley, this woman who's a pioneer in therapeutic bedside music. She's a world pioneer. She's written many books and started programs. So when I saw her books at Leslie's house, I was like, oh, what is this about? So it kind of coincided with me being pregnant, me wanting to change something, and then me finding out that I'd never heard what therapeutic bedside music was. I had no clue. So all of those things kind of happened at the same time.
Cool. Thank you. Interesting story.
Oh, Leslie taught your daughter for a little while.
Yeah. Yeah. My daughter's a harpist, so
Oh,
she plays levered harp. Yeah. It's beautiful. So we love listening to her play. Yeah. She studies with John Carrington now. She's been playing with him for about 5 years now.
wow.
Yeah.
Is
I don't
Vashon,
know if there's anything else to say?
oh, is Vashon where the Philip Bolding Pam family lives?
In Ashland, Oregon.
No, I think on Vashon Island.
Oh, Vashon.
They live around here somewhere.
They do. I don't know where they live, but I thought it was South Sound somewhere.
And he
I'm not
makes
sure.
harps.
He does. He makes, in fact, I could be wrong about this, but I think he was actually a mentor to Ray Moore's at Dusty Strings.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because a long time ago, Philip would make small harps and dulcimers, and then he would have classes at Pike Place Market.
oh my gosh, wow. That must have been a while back. I've lived in Seattle 20 years. I don't remember anything. I don't remember hearing about that. That must have been a while back.
That's a while back.
He's sweet, and I don't know. I really like the harp community here. We have our harp society is, we still are meeting on Zoom and things, but this is the time that you do that. But I do feel fortunate to have a community such as yours too. Just having colleagues to kind of bounce ideas off is really super helpful during these times.
Yeah. And it's still, even though Zoom is compressing everything, your music is really coming through to the rest of us.
Oh, okay.
And your thoughts. I mean, it's always good as a teacher to be reminded that it's okay to play the piano or your instrument and just play whatever you want.
Right. Yeah.
You don't still have it?
Yes.
Okay.
I just was wondering about something too when you were talking about being in the zone and just that there's no Zoom zone. I like that concept, and what it made me think about is like, yeah, one of my joys of playing sometime is just in a live situation with other musicians is that physiological thing that happens. I don't know if it's like the vibrations of the music going through your body or the the airwaves. I don't know, but it's just it resonates, of course, absolutely in a different way than Zoom. So I think that for me, that's been very challenging just as a teacher and trying to give my students that experience of that actual, whatever that physiological thing is that happens when the music is played live and it hits your body, or, vibrates in your body, you know what I'm saying? So it's very interesting. Yeah. So
That's
I don't know if you,
really good. I know one of my colleagues at Dusty Strings has been really super on top with Zoom lessons and sharing information on what he has gleaned about, I guess, Zoom compresses the sound waves in a certain way. And I think that you can get a plugin to change that. This is just like not my area of expertise, and this is out of my comfort zone to try to figure out how to maybe change how Zoom operates with, say, latency and the vibration. I did get a new computer. I noticed that some people where I'm in a meeting. I'm sorry. I just haven't experienced that where I want to go try to improve that because that's just out of my comfort zone. But I know exactly what you're talking about. I kind of think like that concept of 1 + 1 = 3, where we're playing together and then we feel the whole sound chamber vibrate, and especially if there's an audience, then there's that audience energy feeding back, and and it's like performers are really, really hurting in a sense where we're half of what we're doing, why we want to do it just doesn't exist anymore at this time.
yeah. Hopefully soon change.
Cool. Are there any other questions for Monica or comments? No. Oh, okay. Well, great.
Yay.
We've just done it. Thank you so much. Thanks, Monica.